Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It is that time of the week once again when the weekly challenges go ahead and refresh. Now in terms of this week, we do have the return of the 6-star Roulette Ticket reward, which can offer some of the better rewards in game, also I believe like 1,000,000 credits and some of the game's better vehicles. And we also see the return of classic retro Formula 1 racing to GT7. So here is an overview then of February week 4. This will end on the 27th of February 2025 at midnight. In terms of the events then for this week, we have the high speed ring reverse featuring the Japanese FR Challenge 450. We then move over to Watkins Glen short course, that is for the American FR Challenge 550. We then go for some off-road action at Lake Louise long track with the World Rally Challenge Group B. Then we move over to Circuit de St Croix B for the Schwarzwald League. And then to finish off, we have the return of the special event for the F3 500 one make, this time at Monza. As for the rewards this week, it's going to be one event giving you 100,000 credits, 3 events for 200,000 credits, and of course all 5 events for a 6-star roulette ticket. So event number 1 this week is a high speed ring reverse featuring the Japanese FR Challenge 450. Now of course this is aimed at Japanese only vehicles with an FR layout and well around 450 pp. Overall it is one of the easier, more beginner events to the game, as typical with a first event of the week. Now my car of choice here would be the Nissan 180SX, which did the job absolutely fine. So let's go ahead and get into event number 1 this week. As you can see, there are 8 cars in total on the grid. Now, of course, there's 7 AI up ahead of you, and you'll have to get past them all inside of 2 laps for this very short and sweet sprint around the reverse layout of one of the game's fastest circuits. Now, of course, we are in some of the slower vehicles in the game. However, because of the track layout we're given with the high speed ring, you want to ensure your car is a nice mix of handling and top speed, at least being able to match the cars you're up against. Now in terms of your main rivals, it's going to be a bunch of Silvias, Toyota 86s, and also a Sil 80 or 2. So overall, not really the fastest cars in the game, but as long as you can at least match them and have decent handling in your car, you should be able to get this one done and dusted. However, there is a couple of vehicles to watch out for, and that is mainly the Silvia Ks. Now both of those cars seem to be much quicker than the rest of the grid, especially the more modern variant that you'll probably see during this event. So hopefully if you do end up getting the K's Aero, it starts a decent amount behind you. As you can see, it would eventually work its way through the grid and actually get incredibly close to overtaking me on the last part of the track, but thankfully we did manage to hold off, building up a 1-second lead as we went across the line. And that is going to give us tick number 1 of the week. In terms of the payout for this one, typically low as always for event 1 at 15,000 credits, and that is with the clean race bonus, giving us an extra 50% on top of the standard payout, and also 100k for one event complete. So let's head into event number 2 then. This is Watkins Glen short course with the American FR Challenge 550. Just like the previous event, this time around it's for FR American cars only, around 550 pp rating, so an extra 100 on the previous event. Now the grid is mainly going to be made up of classic American muscle cars. My car of choice would be the Dodge Super Bee here, which I tuned up to around about 551 performance points. So here we go for our short but sweet journey. Up ahead of us is 3 laps at the Watkins Glen short course. In terms of the AI and yourself included, there's a total of 10 cars on the grid. Of course 9 if you only include the AI, which are going to be up ahead of you for this one. It is mainly built up of classic American muscle cars. There's a few modern variants in there, but it's none of the more extreme models, so don't worry about them too much. They shouldn't get too far ahead of you as long as you're around the 550 pp rating. Now the main car that I actually had an issue here was with the Challenger RT. That thing was miles ahead of the rest of the field when I eventually got into P2 and would continue charging on. I would eventually manage to chase him down onto lap 3, but that car can certainly give you a few issues if you're not prepared for this event. As for the rest of the field, well, they weren't really that quick. Even the likes of the Viper GTS, which is typically way ahead of the rest of the field for these events, was absolutely nowhere to be found. The main place they're losing pace is on the uphill section after turn 1. They just seem to break all the way through there, and it really does overall destroy their performance. So take advantage of that and build up a car that is decent enough with top speed and grip here. And here on screen, as mentioned, is that pretty wild gap to the Challenger up in front, and eventually we would get that down, giving him a little nudge before going ahead and getting the move done before the bus stop chicane. After that, we took a nice easy P1 and managed to build up a decent enough lead of just over 2.3 seconds as we crossed the line. So in the end, not a bad finish to this event, although that Challenger could be a little bit tricky. In terms of this payout, it is 32,000 credits. Of course, I didn't get the clean race bonus due to the contact with the Challenger, but again, it's pretty low paying. So on to event number 3 then. This time we are going off-road with the World Rally Challenge at Lake Louise long track. Now this event here is going to be a 4-lap sprint around the longest layout of Lake Louise. And of course, this is the only snow track we currently have in Gran Turismo 7, and will probably be the only one we ever get. Now in terms of my car of choice here, I went for the Hyundai Group B rally car. This is completely standard, it just has the special livery on it, of course from the online time trial hosted by Michelin. Now in terms of the grid, this is a total of 12 cars, 11 AI over a 4-lap sprint race. Now in terms of the AI, I don't know if it's just since the update, but they do seem to be much slower in off-road events, and they're incredibly inconsistent and slow here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm in a completely standard Group B rally car here. The only modification we have to it is the fact that we're running snow tyres, which are of course needed for this event. But in terms of the AI pace, they were a kind of crawl all the way through this event. They're incredibly slow on this longer layout of Lake Louise, and I'm really not sure why. Once again, we're on the hardest difficulty, so they're at their maximum performance potential, I guess. But they were just incredibly slow and constantly tripping over each other, which made overtakes, well, incredibly easy. So really, I don't think many people will have issues with the actual AI and their performance. I think the main issue someone would have is the fact that this is a snow race and there's barely any of them in GT7. And really, the off-road races are typically a bit more tricky for the player just due to the fact that they don't show up as much. However, I will fully say to Polyphony, a great job with updating the suspension, especially for off-road races recently, because it felt amazing to just fly around this track. Kicking the rear end out feels a lot more natural. The bumps aren't as aggressive and, really throw the car off anymore. It feels much better on terms of the kind of dirt and snow physics. Overall though, this is a very easy event. I won it by almost 30 seconds in the end. And that is tick number 3 of the week. In terms of the payout for this one, again, not too much, 85,000 credits without the clean race bonus. And of course, we do get the 200k on top of that. So next up then, let's move to the final normal event, quotation marks, of the bunch. This is the Schwarzwald League over at Circuit de St Croix B. Now, there is a performance point limit in place here of 700. And of course, your car must be from Germany. Now, in terms of the car selection for this one, it's maybe not as varied as I would have liked it to be. However, I managed to get the 930 911 Turbo working for it at just under 700 pp, around about 690. Now, when it comes to this event, we have a much bigger grid here, made up of 16 total cars, 15 AI over a 4-lap sprint race, a little bit like the previous event with Lake Louise. However, the track that we're running here is much longer, and overall I am just not personally a fan of St Croix in any way, shape or form. I think the only fun I've had at this track was the 800 pp WTC event. Apart from that, I've never really enjoyed myself through here, so it's certainly one of my personal weaker ones. However, overall, the event itself is super easy. Yes, there's a 700 pp cap here, but I feel like almost none of these vehicles that we're up against were running anywhere near that limit. So lap 1 and lap 2 was just picking off the different groupings of cars. You'll typically find yourself going through maybe 2 or 3 cars at a time, then a bit of a gap to the next bunch, and so on and so forth until the leader is way up the road. As you can see here, by the time I got into P2, there was around about a 7-second gap, and it would take me a little bit longer to track down this 911 GT3, which we did eventually do, having a much higher top speed than him. Although he absolutely had the pace through the corners, we put our foot down and got this overtake done and dusted. And there we go. At that point, there was really no looking back, as we pushed on until the 4th and final lap, with around about an 18-second lead. And there we go, that is tick number 4 of the week. In terms of this payout, it really isn't too bad. 120,000 credits with the clean race bonus for those 4 laps completed. We do get our daily driving marathon as well of a 3-star roulette ticket reward. So let's move on to the final event of the week then. This is at Monza for the F3 500 one make. Of course, returning for the second time ever since this car was added, bringing some retro Formula 1 action to the game. However, it does slightly differ from how the high speed ring event actually ran out. Now, in terms of the finer details, it's a 10-lap race once again, 12 AI, 4 times fuel and 8 times tyre. Usable tyres and types are all of the racing compounds, including intermediates and wets, but you don't need those. Of course, the specified car is the Gran Turismo F3 500A. First place will actually reward you a fairly healthy 200,000 credits. Couple that with a clean race bonus, that's 300k in around about 14 minutes time. And then of course it goes down to 120 and 80. Your main rival cars are of course all the exact same as you. In terms of the restrictions, BOP is off. Car use must be a garage car. Car settings are allowed. And in terms of the race settings, mechanical damage is completely off. However, penalty settings, shortcut penalty is on this time around with wall collision penalty set to off. So it's time to jump in and see what's on offer here. Now, of course, my car of choice would be the F3 500A. However, I had it decked out in this Benetton livery. Now, in terms of the actual event itself, it's going to be once again a full 12 car grid, 11 AI over a 10-lap race. Very, very similar to what we saw with High Speed Ring. However, it is very much set out in a different way. The AI this time around will pit. And I think they've kind of done it on purpose because the front kind of 3 or 4 vehicles are much quicker than what you'll see at the back of the grid. They will build up a huge gap very, very early on. So don't panic if you get yourself up into maybe 5th, 4th place and see that the rest of the field is absolutely disappearing and absolutely gaining on you. Now, the way I chose to run this event was certainly not the best. I chose a set of racing softs. I fully recommend a set of racing mediums. They are absolutely perfect for this event. You won't have to pit on them. I tried to do a 0 stop here on the racing softs and you'll kind of see what happened. Now, in terms of the fuel, I fully recommend a manual transmission so you can short shift as much as possible, especially if you're saving fuel when running in slipstream and stuff for maybe the first 5 laps. You should have enough without having to pit in like the AI actually will. So you certainly want to try and get this done on a 0 stop strategy. Now, in terms of that gap, as you can see, by the time I'm in 5th place, it's around about 9.3 seconds and it will continue to go up to the leader even when you start working your way through the rest of the field. I'm in P4 here and the gap is now around about 9.5 to 9.8 seconds. And by the time I dive into P3 and get myself in a podium position, it's upwards of 10 seconds and it will continue to grow. However, these 2 AI will eventually pit in at the exact same time together no matter what. Typically at the end of lap 7 going on to 8. And then as you can see, the car that was running in 3rd that we overtook will eventually pit in, and one of the AI that was leading the race will eventually pit in for a second time. So as you can see, I went for the high risk versus high reward strategy of running the racing softs, and by the time I just got onto the final lap, which was the 10th lap, the left rear tyre was completely given way, meaning that although I did have over a 3-second buffer going onto this lap, my lead was almost completely gone. And as we rounded into the final couple of corners, my lead would come to a crushing end. I went for a defensive move sticking on the inside, but unfortunately I just couldn't put the power down on exit to fend off and keep my lead. So really, I recommend a set of racing mediums here. However, that is still tick number 5 for this week. I took away 120,000 credits. And really, I actually found myself wanting to go back and actually nab first. So we do get the 6-star roulette ticket reward, of course. So let's go ahead and actually open up our rewards. So we're going to start off with our 3-star, which was our daily driving marathon that we picked up today during these weekly challenges. Now, in terms of this ticket, it's typically absolutely terrible. And well, it's going to follow suit there. As you can see, 5,000 credits on my daily marathon. Yay. In terms of the rest of them, it's 100k for 1 event completed. For completing 3 of the 5 events, it's 200,000 credits. So we're just going to add those to the overall account balance. And then we do have our 6-star roulette ticket reward. Now again, this can give you some of the better rewards in game. I believe up to the likes of 1,000,000 credits, some cars that are worth an absolute fortune. So it's really worth going ahead this week. For me, I got 500,000 credits, which I don't mind. I don't need any more cars or any more parts. So 500k for me is an absolute steal. And there we go. That is the brand new set of weekly challenges and the return of retro Formula 1 racing to Gran Turismo 7. I think this is a fantastic event. I love the fast pace of it. Yes, it's a bit of a sprint racy kind of deal, but overall, it's an absolute blast. And really, one thing that I said about the high-speed ring was that if they overdid it, it would have probably overstayed its welcome. However, adding a bit of strategy here for the return of it at Monza, allowing players to go ahead and maybe pit or run mediums, softs, hards, whatever you want, really does add that extra element that was kind of absent from the high-speed ring one. So I think this is a fantastic event. Anyway, let me know what you think. Huge thank you to everybody that is listed on screen now. I will see you once again tomorrow. Take care, guys. Peace.